Gfile TV, here through gfilenews.com, legal and admin docket. Recorded June the 14th of 2023. Complicated issue, says White House press secretary when questioned by EWTN reporter Owen regarding gender identity disorder children. This is a notice of the denial of gender orientation health care to minors, Malum Prohibita, an executive branch public policy Racket notice, and a notice of natural law breach. Again, Gfile legal docket made on the open journalism sphere on 23rd year, 2023, June 14th of this year. In yet hypothetical pretend job by White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, the dodging of the mental health need for minors is sustained. This administration is shamefully pawning off children's mental health to their perverted and twisted sense of sexuality and unnatural tolerances of false teachings in both classrooms, medicine and also in psychology, and have adopted that now by policy. Very confusing in the policy is by design because a clear issue, and those who prefer to not honor natural law speak to a language and other language that is of the father of confusion. They are speaking lies and of their father, the author of lies. So we should and do pray for our leaders as we follow the truth and hope they begin to follow the truth. So saying that the frock of Jezebel should be rarely used, something I'll toss out there and not yet apply. But notice is provided, and there's a strict focus here on the journalism intent. And yet one should consider if this purported White House press secretary is operating in an administrative and political capacity, it's absolutely inappropriate to have peddled the killing of the unborn in Ireland on the American taxpayer dollar, when we specifically have made it very clear through votes and surveys that we do not support such an agenda. Yet we are paying a clown to pretend she's on official federal business. It's promoting the slaughter of the unborn, and now here is telling the boys and girls that they should be chemically or physically mutilated if they want to actually participate in sports the proper way and accept those who are in the process of transitioning, or those who choose not to must participate and not question the gender identity of the person who would be a delusional child if in fact they believe that their gender was anything other than that in biological natural birth. Very, very peculiar. It's actually a great delusion of sorts. There's no logical person that would seek such strings of medical misrepresentation and psychological nonsense, but their mind having been so darkened by forces other than God. So notice is made at gfile.news on the legal and admin platform of the Democratic Party's position regarding transgender youth and transgenderism, period. Is philosophically a principle, and it denies true philosophy. It acts contrary to psychological evidence regarding suicide rates post-application of the witchcraft and otherwise surgical mutilation tactics, and wherein spiritual retreats or normal methods supporting gender identity or even psychiatric commitments are being denied. Those were the actual appropriate, still remain to be the appropriate methods treating any young person that is having gender confusion. This administration, by policy, albeit intentionally vague and ambiguous because they can't string sufficient truth together, but for their heart and conscience to appear as wicked as it is in their policy, they continue separating children from good medicine and good solid psychology and good foundations for health and a productive life. The apparent need for attention in this woman who's literally painting her eyelids to rob truth of attention to herself rather than truth to attention of actual philosophical, vitally necessary medical issues and good policy. She's doing this in vain disregard to the collateral damages that she's causing. And it is getting near sickening to watch her endless reading of scripts and that false narrative. The spiritual force hiding behind this lady in Biden is concerning, not simply for the community, nation, and the global example that we set of the damages that ripple, but for the sake of their own soul. To reach such a point of tolerating advancing wickedness, dressing it up and living off the blood of those that they kill by their policies is evil. Define it as you may, this is how the criteria was if you take the Bible, natural law, DSM #4, and standard practices of medicine and psychology to define it. Specifically, if you consider living tissue was and is considered to be sacred by those who honor true natural law and medical principles and Hippocratic oath, specifically the Popes and Science from Fordham University's press in 1913 says you can't fulfill your duty to the Hippocratic oath if you dissect living good tissue. And thus the very idea of an abortion is missed at the macro and micro philosophical levels. And any medical professional acting in good faith consciously understands the gentle, dutiful standard to guard and preserve living tissue. Granted, medical discernment is involved in the mechanics, but philosophically, that is the basic standard. So notice made regarding the ongoing evils of denying children access to true, tested, timeless, spiritual, and by proxy, mental and psyche health. This gender identity discouragement should be considered. These young people should be allowed to have retreat periods with those who are geared and trained at utilizing biological, natural law. There should be actual commitments where there's destructive life patterns or destructive tissue requests, whether it be like chemical mutilation or surgical mutilation. Mutilation of a boy or girl's sexual organs denies the grandparents, that individual, and the world the blessing of his or her children naturally, which in conjunction also works when people adopt and honor natural law. And that is our next generation. In addition, it leads to a statistically staggering, indisputable downward spiral towards a concerning suicide rate for those who've had the application of these procedures and chemical drugs. This lady and Biden are failing in those regards and are making it a Hunger Games show for the world in the process. Un-American, unbiblical, unnatural, unpopular. It's just weird. And yet in due time, it will be unveiled by a higher court. And so, yes, let us pray. Let us pray for their souls. And I'd even challenge Karine, Jean-Pierre to sit at a middle school lunch table with me with her makeup and all her ways, and let's record a conversation to hopefully check her conscience and take one positive spiritual step towards God. So, ma'am, grow up. Stop using your purported minority status to abuse children by psychological mutilation being encouraged. The philosophical mutilation being encouraged is disgusting. It's not the best version of you. It's not something you would have adopted in a younger version of yourself, I so believe. And I pray that you stop acting as an actress and live a simple, holy life for the safety of our nation's next generation. Those are our most valuable assets. And you're teaching young boys and young girls that their right to produce, procreate, and have additional life in future generations should be submitted to your perversion of sexuality and anti-biological medicine. Peace be with you. That's what we